Hello and welcome to another episode of Badman Reviews, and today is Ganon Day. And by that I mean I finally beat Breath of the Wild, and I thought it would be an awesome idea to talk about my top 10 best Ganon fights in The Legend of Zelda. I also don't think I'll have to say this, but spoilers for like 10 final boss fights. With that aside, let's grab our controllers and take a look through the timelines to find the best of the worst of the... Yeah, just show the number thing. Number 10!
Let's go!
Starting off, we have a boss fight that I don't think a lot of the Zelda fan base has actually touched, and that would be the Four Swords Adventure, which has some really cool parts put into it. First, I just want to say I love the art style this game has. Take a look at the beautiful flames that come from Ganon's trident, and his animations are really great for a 2D Zelda game. Sadly though, I don't have much of a connection with this boss fight, seeing as I've never actually played it. It's just kind of the only 10th Ganon fight that I could find. There's really only 10 fights in total, so, you know, I had to put it on the list somewhere. But it looks cool, and the addition of being able to fight him with the Game Boy Advance and the GameCube separately is a really cool idea. So, you know, it has that going for it.
Number 9!
Someone is probably gonna kill me for this, but number 9 is Winwaker, because overall I just don't like Winwaker all that much. I've explained my opinions on that enough in other videos though, so I'll skip that and just talk about the boss fight in itself. Truthfully, the puppet Ganon isn't half bad. It's an interesting fight, but I find many points of it annoying, especially the stupid serpent. The actual fight with Ganondorf is the worst part for me though. When I compare it to Ocarina of Time as a kid, I just found nothing fun about it, and I had no real hatred or feelings towards this Ganondorf in particular. He was just a bad dude who threw me out of a window at one point, and then I get to stab him in the face. But if there isn't enough build-up and that fight itself isn't fun, then overall you're gonna have a bad time.
Number 8.
Yet another choice that will have some people throwing spears at my face, but I'm not a huge fan of the Link to the Past fight. This is mostly due to the fact I really didn't grow up with A Link to the Past. Yeah, it came out when I was around the right age to play it, but I never had a Super Nintendo, and when I finally played and beat A Link to the Past like 4 years ago, it didn't quite compare to other Zeldas. So you know, the glory and splendor that is A Link to the Past was just kind of dull for me. Yes, it was a great game, but every other Zelda that was released between its release date and the time I actually beat it was a taste at something better that A Link to the Past couldn't offer, and the Ganon fight was exactly like that. It's an okay fight that didn't really blow my mind or impress me, especially since one of my favorite Ganon fights is a 2D fight, and on a weaker system.
Number 7.
Next, we have Yuga from A Link Between Worlds, which I know isn't 100% a Ganon fight, but it's still Yuga fused with Ganon, so I'm counting it. Plus, this is where I get to point that I actually really start to enjoy the boss fights. Yuga has some really well put together fight mechanics that mix together the ability to morph into walls and your standard Zelda gameplay. I also love the fact that this Ganon absorbs Zelda halfway through the fight to gain the Triforce of Wisdom to help him defeat Link, which is something you really don't see in any other of the Zelda games. It's a fantastic game that finishes off with a very well-designed boss.
Number 6.
Hyrule Warriors was a game I loved a lot. Like, a lot. Like, I would buy it again on the Switch to have a version I could play on the go that isn't Legends. I know they have Fire Emblem Warriors coming, but it's not quite the same. But back on track, I loved the scale of this game and how it really showed what a war in Hyrule would be like. And it's awesome with the massive armies on the battlefield and getting to see how devastating people like Link, Zelda, and others can be when fighting hordes of weak enemies. So a game of this scale has to have a large-scale final boss fight, and Ganon hits that right on the nose, taking everything you've learned throughout the game, having you throw a boomerang to smack off tentacles, throw bombs to get sucked into Ganon, and more that you learn from fighting other bosses, all while smashing away with your sword and being surrounded by two armies fighting each other and trying to do what they can against Ganon. It's an awesome encounter that I've wanted to see for a while, starting all the way back when I came up with the Zelda Dynasty Warriors idea, playing the Warriors series with my friend as a kid all the time.
Number 5.
Spoilers ahead for Breath of the Wild, so if you don't wish to see this entry, click the link provided or skip to the timestamp on the screen now. So, 1 and 2 and 3, and Breath of the Wild's boss fight is okay. Like, okay at best. And this probably would have been like a number 8 or 7 on this list if it wasn't for one fact, that you can change how the boss fight plays out. If you play the game normally and defeat all the divine beasts, the fight becomes very boring. The divine beasts take out half of the boss's health and make him really easy to take on. On the other hand, if you go straight to the boss fight without beating any of the divine beasts, you'll have to fight each of the 4 bosses one after another and then full health Ganon after that. It's a pretty intense fight. The second phase isn't really hard at all, it's more for the looks, and it does its job really well with some great moments, but again, it just doesn't give that amazing sense of excitement some of these other bosses do.
Number 4.
This pick is more of a personal preference for me, but I do believe it's one of the best 2D Ganondorf fights to date. I'm talking about Ganon from the Linked Oracle of Ages and Seasons games. I loved how, for me, this boss fight was sort of a myth in the courtyard at school. Some people would claim to fight Ganon at the end of their game, and others stated that they never saw him, so most of us assumed the other kids were liars. That was until I got my hands on the strategy guide and found out how you could actually fight Ganon. After a long and difficult dungeon, you find yourself face to face with the beast himself. The fight is long and hard if you don't know how to take him out, but after finally damaging him enough, you find yourself getting your controls reversed, which took me forever as a kid to learn how to control. But when I finally got through that part and beat Ganon in those games that I spent hours playing as a kid, I was so proud of myself, and that's why I placed this boss here at number 4.
Number 3.
Ocarina of Time is one of the best built-up boss fights I've ever played. A huge hatred and growth of the boss as the game progresses, and then a slow climb up the tower stairs as you hear the organ get louder and louder, until you finally reach the top of the tower and meet Ganondorf face to face in a one-on-one battle. And it's a good battle, that's for sure. The volley battle is something that started in this game and was carried on for multiple games after this one, and for good reason. It's just fun. After beating the crap out of Ganondorf, a massive escape scene commences and you have to flee the castle. And as you think you finally made it out safe, you find yourself once again facing off with Ganondorf, who is transformed into Ganon. And without your Master Sword, it's one intense and scary fight that is just hard to beat. But obviously, there are 2 more fights I enjoyed more.
Number 2.
Now in my top Zelda boss fights, I had placed this guy at number 1, but after some more thinking, I decided to put this one down a notch at number 2. I also know he isn't technically Ganon, but he is the main cause of his existence. I'm talking about Demise, a boss that's just insanely fun to fight. I also love the art design of this boss, the beautiful blue sky and epic lightning during the final end part of this fight. I am one of few people who never had any issues with how Skyward Sword controlled, and I loved every second of it, so when it came to Demise and testing my sword skills, it was a fun battle that I found myself playing multiple times over and over again.
It's me, number 1.
The number 1 Ganondorf fight, I think, is Twilight Princess. A combination of all of the past bosses mixed together into one fantastic battle, mixing volley battles, giant Ganon fights, horseback battles, and a one-on-one fight to the death. Every aspect of this battle is spot on, and the Ganon's Tower is actually an extremely fun climb and challenge unlike some of the other bosses on this list. A way to point out how much I loved this boss fight, I replayed it so many times that I actually broke the A button on one of my GameCube controllers for the part where you have to smash A to fight Ganondorf's sword back. It does everything right, and I would have loved to see another fight this well put together, but sadly, that won't happen for a while now, probably. I hope you all enjoyed my list, and I would love to know what some of your favorite Ganondorf boss fights are in the comments below. And until next time, I'll see you all in the next episode. I just want to give a huge shout out to my top Patreon supporters of the month. So thank you Zero Master, Thomas Bethel, Grizzly Gamer, and Legend Gary. Without your guys' support, I would not continue to make such fantastic videos. So thank you all, and if you wish to become a Patreon yourself, check the description below for more details.